Welcome back to the Legacy Podcast. My name is Olisya Grant, co-founder of Matrix Legacy, Inc. We are back for episode number 38. This is the show where we create a blueprint for success, we look for ways to create generational wealth, and we break those chains of a poverty mindset. For those of you who are brand new, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. And for those of you who have been here from the beginning, you already know how much I appreciate you tuning in every single week. If you have been enjoying the show thus far, you can go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share it with a friend. All of that helps more people receive the same message, and it truly does help us to grow. So that being said, let's get right into it. There has been a lot of momentum and shifts in various different parts of my life, and what it's turning into is a rapid growth in the teams that I work with and that I participate in. And what you'll notice as you're going on your own journey is every new level you're going to need new, different, stronger skill sets. And also the people around you are going to start to shift as well, whether it be they personally grow with you, or in the new season you find yourself with a new team or a new group of individuals. And in any team, any project, one thing that must be present in order for it to work is leadership. And that's what I want to talk about today, is what that means, how we can become better leaders, and why it's important. So I've been studying a lot from the likes of the Brian Tracy's of the world, John Maxwell's of the world, and of course my personal mentors, Mr. Byron Nelson, Les Brown, etc., etc. And there's 3 common features that really stand out when it comes to leadership. And so I'm going to give you a top 3 list in terms of how to become a better leader a little bit later on in the show. But the first thing that I want to talk about is what is a leader in the first place? Because a lot of times we might not identify ourselves as leaders, and there has to be a certain level of soldiers and lieutenants when it comes to creating certain movements. Everybody has a role to play. However, in multiple areas of our lives, there's going to be a time where we are the leader. Any space where you hold influence, you are a leader. Now, what you choose to do with that leadership is completely up to you. But as soon as you have influence, you are a leader. So that could be influence in your household. If you have children, it could be your parents or your siblings, younger cousins, could be in your group of friends, on social media, the people who are following you on your platforms. And the reason it's so important to notice that you are a leader, even if you don't identify yourself as one, is because everything rises and falls on leadership. And you'll notice that even the leaders who we look to and think they've reached the top, those people are also still following somebody else. There's always somebody leading the pack. But the thing is, as we move and evolve, essentially what's happening is we're changing levels. So you might be the follower in a situation for a while, and then in the next season or the next year or the next project, you find yourself as the leader because you have more experience than somebody who still hasn't taken that journey as yet. So if you are just currently in a position where it's just you and maybe a few roommates, or you and your family, you have to consider what type of influence you have, what your actions are influencing the people around you to do. Now, in that same breath, it's important to know, people are going to do what they're going to do at the end of the day. However, the way you're moving and the way that you're conducting yourself and carrying yourself is going to have an impact on those around you. And leaders are the one who set the tone, create the culture, paint the vision so that other people can fit themselves into that space and they know where they're going. So it's important to be very conscious of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, our habits, the things that we're posting on social media, what kind of image we're portraying of ourselves, or what it is that we want to portray, because there's always somebody following us, even if we don't know it. I had somebody message me the other day. We had never spoken before, but he went into my messages and said, listen, I've been following you for almost a year now, and what's inspired me the most is your consistency. I see at multiple times a week, your message is the same, your content is consistent and consistently improving, and it's inspired me to be more conscious of what I'm putting on my platform. So I was leading without even noticing it. And so you are inspiring people in spaces that you don't understand. and you are influencing people, whether it be good or bad. So being very conscious and mindful of who might be watching, and even if you don't know who's watching, having it in the back of your mind that, listen, in some form, my actions are impacting somebody else. So just that alone, even if you don't identify as a leader, you will realize that by default, we're all a leader in some sense of the word. And so that's why with today's topic, what I wanted to leave you with is 3 of the top ways, based on all of the people and the mentors who I have been following, 3 of the top ways that I've learned that you can increase your leadership skills. Because the greater of a leader that you become, the greater leaders you're able to attract, which is then going to take you to the next level of your journey, whether it be through leadership, through business, through a career choice, whatever that looks like, you'll be able to get to that new level as you evolve as a stronger leader. So here's the first one. Leaders are constantly growing. There's no pinnacle. There's no point in time where you cross the finish line and you're just an exceptional leader and that's it. You have to always be looking for ways to grow. So they say not all readers are leaders, but all leaders do read. And so if you're trying to become a better leader for your team, for your family, for yourself, one of the main things that you're going to have to do is read. All the answers that you're looking for on leadership, about business, about relationships, about life, it's inside of books. And books are one of the greatest ways that you can constantly make sure that you are growing yourself. You are becoming a better version of yourself. And so it's not a question of how long will it take for me to be a great leader. It's really how far can I go in terms of becoming a better leader, because there's a phrase, and as you go through your own personal development journey, you will quickly realize the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything at all. And so we just have to realize that there's no finish line when it comes to growth. There's always new levels, there's always new resources, always new connections that we can make, and always new ways to break through that ceiling. And I heard something from John Maxwell the other day on a training call. He was saying, you have to play a infinite game, not a finite game. So finite means it's final. I'm going from here to here and then it's done. An infinite game means there's no limits. You can go absolutely as far as you desire. But if you do want to be a better leader, one of the things you're going to have to keep at the forefront of your mind is that you always constantly need to be looking for ways to grow and develop. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions in terms of traveling, in terms of networking, in terms of taking on new projects, trying new things. These are the ways that you're going to grow. Those spaces that feel uncomfortable, those are the spaces that hold everything that you're looking for. And that consistent desire to grow, reach new levels, expand, that is what's going to take your leadership to the next level. Moving on to number 2. In order to become a better leader, what you'll want to do is take inventory of some of the greatest leaders that you know. Could be a teacher, could be a CEO, could be a parent, could be a coach, anything. Take inventory and make a list of the greatest leaders that you know. And take a look at all of the traits that they have. Is it persistence? Is it humility? Is it work ethic? Whatever it is, you make a list of those traits. And then go ahead and take a look at which ones that you do not possess, or look at the areas in where you're weak, because then you can focus on building up those traits. So for me, when I was looking at the leaders who I was following, one thing that I noticed is they had like limitless patience. People could ask them questions for days, even if it was a silly question that they'd already answered, even if it was a reoccurring problem that they had to constantly find a solution for. One thing that I noticed about the leaders I was following is they had patience, and that was where I was extremely weak. I still have a lot of work to do in that patience department, but being able to identify exactly where it was that I needed the work, that's what made it easier to develop. And so I encourage that same thing for you. Take a look at the greatest leaders you know. See what similarities that you share with them so that you can also sharpen those skills as well. Sharpen the skills that you already have. But then really focus in on, well, what am I missing? And where can I go and what can I do in order to develop those skills? And then the third tip I have for becoming a better leader is really to lead yourself. Now, one thing that I've learned on this entrepreneurial journey is that leadership is more so about who you are than what you do. And that's why sometimes we get caught up in thinking that a leader has to be a CEO or a president or a coach or a principal or whatever that looks like, when really a leader doesn't need to have a title. A leader is just somebody who shows up as the best version of themselves each time and inspires and influences other people to want to be better versions of themselves. But the thing is, you can have strong leadership skills and use them for negative things. That's why you have people like Hitler, who was able to create such a massive, terrible movement, but such a massive movement and so much influence because he sharpened his leadership skills to the point of no return. So even though he was leading people in the wrong direction, people still wanted to follow him because of who he was to them, because of how he showed up to them and what he made them believe about themselves. And then you look at the greatest leaders, people like Martin Luther King, for example. He had those exact same qualities, those same leadership skills, but he was leading people in a much better direction. He was inspiring people to look inside of themselves and pull out the best parts. And so once you realize it's more about who you're being and how you're showing up for yourself and for people versus the things that you're doing, that is a big part of being able to lead yourself, because you have to do that personal development work. Going back to tip number 1 is constantly looking for ways to grow. In order for you to show up as a better version of yourself, you constantly have to be looking for ways to elevate and get to the next level. So leading yourself looks like, what kind of self-discipline are you practicing? What kind of work ethic do you have? How kind are you being to other people? Because at the end of the day, you can't lead people farther than you are willing to go yourself. So if there's people around you who have bad habits and you wish that they would break them, or you wish that they would just do more for themselves because you care about them and you want to see them succeed, well, you have to succeed first. You have to show them what's possible. And then maybe even after you've shown them, they still don't want to do the things that you would hope and wish that they would do, but that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to make sure that you're showing up as the greatest example and the best version of yourself and leading yourself to be that best version so that it will inspire other people to do the same. Another thing I heard from John Maxwell on the call the other day is you can't give what you don't have. So if your goal and your hope for others is that they find success, well, then you have to find success, because people love to follow success. People want to be a part of that. But if you haven't found it for yourself, if you can't even lead yourself to success, then how are you to lead others? How are you to lead your family? How are you to lead your friends? How are you to lead your team, your business, your company? How are you supposed to lead other people into success if you haven't found it for yourself? So the third thing that you're going to want to do is create success for yourself. And when I say success, I'm not talking about, material things or money necessarily. Unless those are your measures of success, that's not necessarily what we're speaking about here. We're more so looking for significance, more so looking for impact, more so looking for the shift that we're able to create in other people's lives just because we've decided to make certain decisions in our lives. And so just to recap, the 3 tips that I have for you today in regards to being able to become a better leader. The first one is you got to constantly be growing. Second one is to look at the greatest leaders that you know and find out what you're missing in comparison. And then the third one is to lead yourself. So I truly hope that helped somebody. That's just where I am right now in regards to reflecting on how I can be a better leader. And I'm realizing everything always comes back to yourself and what you decide to do when nobody's watching, because whether you know it or not, somebody's watching. Somebody's being inspired, whether it be for the good or the bad, based on the way that you're showing up in the world. So it's important to be very conscious of that. And even if you don't identify yourself as a leader, somewhere in your life you are a leader. And it's important to be very conscious and aware of your impact in this world. And I spoke about this in the last episode where, you might have an interaction with one person, and based on the interaction that you had with that one person, the next 10 people that they talk to after you are going to be impacted. So you give them amazing energy, you give them inspiration, you give them a thought or an idea, they're going to run off with a certain type of energy and excitement, and that's going to touch the next people that they speak to. However, you give them negativity, or you come from a place of lack because you haven't done the work that you need to become a strong leader, well, then that's what's going to be passed on and around in the world. So it's very important, even if you don't identify yourself as a leader, to develop those leadership skills. So That is all I've got for today, guys. I truly, truly hope this helped somebody. If it did, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a review, share this with a friend. You can also download the Matrix Legacy app, available in the App Store for both Android and Apple. You can stay up to date with all of our legacy content there. I will be here next week with another building block for success. Until next time, let's build a legacy.